Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Solo Queue. I'm your host, Michael Damiani. This week, I'm joined by this person you all suggested named Kyle Bosman,
That's
right?
correct.
Every
Yep.
time we bring up this person's name, everyone in our community is like, who is this guy? But that's the question I want to pose to you, Kyle Bosman. Who are you?
Today we learn that I am an online creator. I've got a weekly YouTube series called Delayed Input, and I've a regular streamer on Twitch 3 days a week at twitch.tv/Kyle Bosman.
Nice. Now, I got to get you on that opening there. You said an online creator. So you
Mhm.
create online? You create the internet?
No, it's just basically everything I create only exists on the internet. You know what I mean? Like,
Gotcha.
I'm
Okay.
not
See,
like, yeah, I'm not
I'm an
making
old
anything farmer's market or anything. It's only thing everything I produce appears online.
understand. I see. I get it. All natural. See,
Mm.
I'm one of those old fogies who just does not understand any of this stuff. So I call everything Nintendo.
Mhm.
Kids around me just don't understand anything that I tell them. I
Yeah.
had my nephew was going through a list of YouTube creators and was getting angry at me that I did not know a single one of them. They're all Minecraft creators, by the way.
Yeah, this
And we all
happens to
know
me too, actually.
we know I'm the biggest Minecraft player and fan in the world here.
Mhm.
So he's just getting infuriated. I don't know anyone. So I asked him, "Do you know who Ninja is?" He goes, "I don't know who Ninja is." I'm like, "Okay." And you're mad at me because I don't know any of these Minecraft content creators. So I don't
Yeah.
know who's at fault there, my nephew or me at this point.
It's not you. No, no, no.
Hmm.
Like, here's the thing: is like Scrunch Bunch is in, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's somebody like on doing Minecraft streams every week, right? Every day, and they will be like they have their audience, but like, I wonder if the kids will stay attached to Scrunch Bunch. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Ask your nephew, do you love Scrunch Bunch, or are you
I
gonna
will.
move on in a few months?
I will definitely ask about that.
Yeah.
The ones I do know, he does like Mr. Beast. Apparently, all like little kids love Mr. Beast and are
They do.
infatuated with Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
So I told him I at least know who Mr. Beast is. I'm at least hip to that.
It is
Um,
kind of weird. It's weird to me when adults pretend that Mr. Beast is popular. You know what I mean?
oh
When
yeah,
like when you see an adult Mr. Beast fan, you're like, what's going on here?
yeah. That's my brother, my nephew's dad. He's like, yeah, like Mr. Beast, cool, but he's playing it up for his kid. But like,
Sure.
I could tell he's like, who the heck? What is this guy doing? Like
Yeah.
them and like was it Dude Perfect's the other one they watch, and it's like, oh, my younger nephew, he watches Bluey, and I'm like, okay, you're good. Bluey's good. I'm like,
Yeah.
keep watching Bluey. You don't need to watch Mr. Beast. Just keep watching Bluey.
Dude Perfect, I actually get the appeal of. It's just like, they're just doing stupid cool things. I actually get Dude Perfect.
Yeah. Well,
I
what's it?
also have a nephew who's a Dude Perfect fan.
Okay. My sorry, they were saying that I want to look up Mr. Beast stuff so I at least know something to talk about with my nephew.
Mhm.
I brought like the game show, and obviously he has no idea what I mean by Amazon. He's gonna do a big game show on Amazon, like the biggest one. He goes, "Oh, but his last episode he did this." Like they're too young. They don't follow news, so all they know are the episodes they watch. They don't like pay attention or engage beyond the episodes that go up, which is kind of like intriguing because like they're consuming so much on their phones so much, but they're not like reading websites or like they're not allowed to go on like social media yet. So like they just have like access to like YouTube Kids, and like that is their entire online world and that like limited scope. And it's kind of interesting to see like what they don't know and pick up because they're like just only viewing the online sphere through that like smaller window.
And we're definitely going to talk about Final Fantasy in a second, but I want to
Yes,
ask you
yes.
about your own childhood in that. So, like, when I was watching my things that only I was aware of, right? I still knew that I was aware of a small portion of the entirety of media. You know what I mean? Nickelodeon presented itself as TV for kids, and I'm like, yeah, this is my stuff. I love this. But then, like, I'm also aware of like Ross Perot. I don't know. I'm also aware of like, barely aware of like politics and things outside of it. So I was never just like, mom and dad, you don't know Cat Dog? Where are you crazy? You know what I mean? I was never at that level where I was just like, yeah, I know this is my own weird lane.
Exactly. Yeah, like I was aware of like adult things, but they were
Right.
just like headlines. Like I mean, I didn't call them headlines back then, but like they were something that mattered because parents were making a big deal about it and they were watching it on news and it showed up. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what grown-ups care about. But like, I'm going back to like Ninja Turtles now, or I'm going back to Mario Brothers, or I'm going back to like talking about Nintendo stuff or whatever on AOL and stuff. Like, I just don't really care about that. Like you talked about like, yeah, what was this, Ross Pro? Like it only comes up because I just watched the documentary finally because Netflix picked it up, I guess after he just passed away, the OJ Simpson Made in America thing. But like as a kid, that was like going on too. And like all I remember is like, oh, there's some car chase going on and people are like watching this and like, okay, that's why people care, because he's driving a car around on a highway being chased by cops. Like didn't know who the guy, like I was too young, like I don't really know who this guy is or anything like that. And then they were like, oh, he's in Naked Gun. And like when I watched Naked Gun, I'm like, oh yeah, that's that guy who was in the car chase. That's him. But like that was like viewing it through like news and like the lens of like what my parents cared about. I can sort of remember like, yeah, that's the only reason I cared. But now looking back, we have that context as adults. I guess I'm curious now, like like if my nephew ever come back to like my dad, my brother or me and be like, hey, remember when you told me about this stuff? Now I get it because like I'm older, you know, having that come full circle.
You know what? Or here's what I'm thinking right now. There's nothing that could appear on the news that would have the OJ Simpson car chase impact on a current generation of children. Nothing would have the impact. You know what I mean? It would be something that washes off in a second. That was a big deal, bro. That's crazy. Nothing else could happen today that would have the same like, whoa, I'm going to remember when I was sitting and watching this when I'm 38 years old. Like that'll never happen to kids who are growing up right now. All they have is Mr. Beast.
Look what chat's saying. A Mr. Beast car chase.
That's messed up. That's not right. That's not right.
That's not good.
Don't put that on Mr. Beast.
Yeah. Yeah. This is like things I think about sometimes, like when I come back after my various, you know, interactions with my nephews, because it's just, you know, don't get that much, you know, before I moved back here, I didn't really have interactions with like, you know, very young people of that age. So being able to like, and they're like, one of them is very into video games, and just seeing how even through video games, they view things so differently than I do. And it's, you know, it's enlightening, I guess, you know, to see like what younger generations' perspective on things are. Like reading that, what was it? Some thread I read about, a parent tried to show their kids like Rebirth, which we're about to talk about in a second, and they're like, oh, that's for old people. That's an old person's game. Like Final Fantasy is for old people. And it's like, yeah. Well, I mean, I asked my nephew, I was like, do you know what Final Fantasy is? No. He goes, he knows Mario, but he knows Nintendo stuff, but like anything that's like not really like a Nintendo mainstay and not like Minecraft or one of like the top games you see on Twitch. Like he knows Fortnite. He can do the emotes from Fortnite. He shows me all the emotes. And he X'd them out. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. But Final Fantasy,
it's never entertaining, is it?
Yeah, it's never.
When a kid is doing a Fortnite dance, it's actually never cool.
He tried to do one after his team scored a goal in soccer a few weeks ago. And I kind of like, I was like, no, you don't do that. Like, that's bad manners. Like,
when I'm watching a game, like an NBA game, right? And they cut to a kid who's doing a dance because his player just scored a basket.
Oh, okay.
I like actively don't like that child. You know what I mean? And that's so messed up. Like all children you should think are great. You should look at a strange child and say like, you're a great child. You should be happy at this basketball game. If they're doing a Fortnite dance, I want them to go home sad. I want I'm hoping your team loses so you know pain and sadness. And
okay.
That's messed up.
All right. I mean, it's a little.
It's just the dance.
Okay. I think that's a little extreme, but yeah, okay. I mean, you got to teach kids, you know, to like, you know, keep their egos in check.
Exactly.
You know,
yeah.
It's a hard lesson. I got to learn at an early age. I mean, that's the place to do it, is at a sporting event with like thousands of people watching that kid to shame them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
I got a question for you.
Sure.
So right now we're looking at Damiani's B-roll from his review for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
Were you at any point self-aware and self-conscious that you would be exposing to the world your bathing suit pics?
Oh, you mean the character's bathing suit pics?
I do. Who else? I mean, your bathing suit?
I'm Kyle. I'm slow sometimes. I had to like process that for a second. I was like, were you just like setting me up for like is this a bit, or were we like being serious for a second? And I was like, oh, I'm in a Kyle zone right now. I'm like, I gotta, yeah, throwing me off there. Yes, I was very aware, and I knew what I was doing. I knew it was like, yeah, everyone's. I knew immediately like, every single person who has access to this game and covering it is going to post this scene. They're going to show those bathing suits, and it's because people want to see them. I mean, I think on social media, slightly before the review embargo, people were already getting like clips of that scene specifically because people got access to the game who were, just, regular people who got early copies.
I remember that.
Started posting that scene. They're like, oh, here's like the full beach scene. It's like, I mean, it is what it is. But I mean, you can pick different outfits. You don't have to pick those two outfits. You can pick from one of like multiple outfits for them.
One of two.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For going down to the beach, you can only pick two, but they get like more later. But yeah, I mean, sure. It's like, I don't understand how you could suppress 30 years of thirst, and the developers kind of like knew that. And this game, I think, was mostly very respectful. And it's like they had their one little moment of like, here you go. We're giving you this moment. And honestly, in the grand scheme of things, how many freaking bathhouse scenes I've seen in JRPGs that just really do those horrible tropes and never learn. This was pretty tame, honestly. So like, I think they held back a little bit, to be honest.
I actually like, you got to like earn each piece of the bathing suits through playing mini games, which is very funny.
Yeah, it's like you're working to get that. It's not like, oh, you just got here and you get that. Like, it's a reward. So I was like, okay, I get it. You worked hard. People, we want to see these very sexy characters. Cloud is goofy sexy.
Well, yeah, let me ask you about that. Like Cloud's got like, to me, he's got one good bathing suit and one for like people who are potentially uncomfortable seeing a shirtless Cloud.
Yes. And that I went with shirtless because I wanted to give everyone like, the best view of these characters with, the I was like, all right, everyone is getting down. We're gonna see some skin here. But then I looked at the other outfit. I'm like, that is what I would probably wear. And that's what I think a lot of people would like to wear. And you know what? I actually liked it. I was like, you know what? You could eat whatever you're comfortable in, but like from like fashion standpoint, I liked the second outfit a lot better. I was like, I kind of like want to run through this zone in this outfit. It makes more sense. Like, I'm going to keep this other one on as we progress through the rest of Costa del Sol and the zones beyond, like Gongaga especially. It's like, oh, this is perfect for like this tropical forest area. Yeah, we're like Cloud soldier outfit. Nah, man, he's gonna be sweating, too much humidity. Forget that. I'm not gonna wear that.
I had to as soon as we left the resort and into the more beachy area afterward, had to put everybody's original costumes back on, because to me it's like it's time to fight. We're about to go into battles. And I realize that like it is a fantasy game, so like you have to imagine that like Tifa just has like natural defense against a blade to her bare arm, but like also like for me, like I gotta think of my RPG art party is wearing armor, and so like after Costa del Sol, it was like bathing suits off, everybody. We gotta we're back in business.
Mm-hmm. I mean I put everyone I think back into normal clothing except maybe for Cloud for a little bit. And I think, by the time we started to scale the mountain, everyone was back to normal at that point. Yeah, for sure. It's like, I gotta be like, this is the creator's intent to respect that, and it's like the way I wanted to see them. And like, this is like these remakes, I want to see them how I expect to see them. And then for extra stuff I do later, we can look all goofy and stuff. That's when it's the appropriate time. I was disappointed though by a lack of some outfits though. I thought there would be way more, and I'm kind of bummed that the Square Enix is being your usual Square Enix selves and paywalling them behind Ever Crisis so that you have to go play Ever Crisis to see all the cool outfits.
What are you talking about?
All the cool outfits are in Ever Crisis. They didn't bring like any of them over to Rebirth. Also within the game, the Loveless outfits, you only get Red 13's version of the Loveless outfit. You don't get
a stupid jester hat.
Yeah, sorry, and Kate Sith, but you don't get any of the other ones. I was like, yo, that Cloud outfit would have been sick. That Barret outfit would have been sick. But no, restricted. Yeah, pretty disappointed in that.
I feel like they tipped their hand a little bit, in that you see the changing rooms frequently and like chocobo stops throughout the entire game. So it
Hmm.
was not at all a surprise that there is like post game returns to these areas and that you can just wear whatever you want in post game, you know? But you know, I guess you should expect there's going to be a post game replay through, right? But I feel like they did that a few times where it's like you're in the arena and they're like, after you finish the main story, come back here and you'll fight more people. And that feels like such a strange thing to see on your way through a quest. Is like, well, I mean, what do you mean? What do you mean, receptionist at this desk? You're telling me I have to finish the main campaign before I can do more challenges at your arena? And they're just like, yeah, you know.
Yeah, that's like the gamification of it, that at least they account for that by like trying to tell the player like, hey, I mean it's just the game design part where they're saying like, hey, you either need to come back later because, hey, we want you to progress further, like, or like when it's locked out like that, it's like this will be available later, or they're just giving you more options, like you can stay here and do all these side quests, but you can also just move on. I mean, they don't expect everyone to stay in every zone and do the entirety of every activity there. And they, I don't know if they tell you in game, but they were constantly saying outside of the game in their marketing materials that you can come back and nothing is like, gated, like beyond point of no, there's no point of no return in this game where you get locked out of some piece of content. You can go back and do whatever you want if at any time. So if you
Yeah,
don't want to do it now,
ultimately, yeah,
yeah.
that's a good call. Ultimately, I do respect that. If
But
you if you messed up your march, you can come back and do the march again later. You know, like I do actually like that.
yeah,
Reduces stress.
and I mean, I liked how they gave us the option just to, in the menu, to set who we wanted for like the date stuff. Because after the first with remake and the dresses, getting the different dresses and the date scenes, you had to go back far enough in the game and start that sequence from a certain point. You could not just go right there, and it was a little tedious, I will say. So it was nice to have this. I think they understood how long this game was, and like, all right, we're not making people have to, like, with how like robust these decision making things are, like these small interactions that factor into your character's like relationship level. Like, we're not going to make people go back and redo all of that. Like, that's insane.
Well, I guess what okay, so I think the game is unique in that way, in that like it's, to me, in my mind, nice to have things that are unique to everybody's playthrough. Like, oh, I had this thing happen on mine. Oh, I had this thing happen on mine. Um, I think they're realizing that they're in a special circumstance where people are going to want to have it all. People want all the dates. They don't just want their one particular date. They
Oh,
want every single date. And they're just in a special position, I think, with this game. So I think that, yeah, it's kind of like a certain awareness of their audience and the position they're in. And so they said, fine, just have them all. Just
yeah.
take all the dates.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, they absolutely played it that way, because there's one I think you can't even get on your first playthrough. The date with like your extras, the
That's funny.
non-playables. Yeah, I was like, oh well, how would you even get this one? And do you have to have everyone perfectly even at the same exact percent? And then they can, but like they don't have a percent, so like how would, like, I was like, I don't think you can keep anyone at zero. I don't think it's even possible. So yeah, they meant for you to come back and see those, and they accounted for that. Like, here's a special one that you can only access on your subsequent playthroughs. And I kind of like stuff like that. I kind of like having unique things you get for an extra playthrough, that it's not just, oh, I missed stuff. It's like, oh, here's some stuff you couldn't even do in the first thing, but they feel special. They feel like a bonus. It's not integral, where it's like, man, I'm really bummed that like I couldn't do that in my first playthrough. It's like something like that. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. Like I think they nailed that. And they didn't do too many, but the few they did, I think that was pretty good.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know if you have any other questions, but like for me, the question I had for you, which is one of the like I really want to hear your thoughts about this, because so much of the past like month and a half has been either talking with other people or listening to other people do like theory crafting, like what's going on in the game or these games, where is it all leading to, and I don't know if we really talked so much about like how we felt about the ending of this game in terms of like, did we like it? Did we think it was good? Did we think it was satisfying? Unexpected, expected, questions like that. I don't think I've really dove too deeply into that. And which is funny because in my review I said, oh, one of the things like holds this game back from being a perfect score is I have some issues with like the end, like the last part of this game, but embargo stuff won't let me talk about it. And I never really dove into, I mean, even on spoiler mode, I didn't really dive into that except for like one thing. But like, yeah, I'm kind of curious, and we obviously could talk about any other type of like plot point that you felt was done well or bad. But I mean, the ending, it's just the ending. I think that's the big thing. Like, you know, how this game wrapped up, the moment, like Sephiroth Aerith scene, like that everyone was like expecting, you know, how did you feel like that played out? You know, I'm just like curious.
I like it a lot. So here's the like anybody who says like, hey, should I play through FF7 vanilla first before playing this game? I always say no. I said just get in there. You know what I mean? Don't go play that game. However, the finale of this game leans heavily on the assumption that you know what is about to happen. Though honestly, it is set up pretty well and heavily with Marlene way early in the game saying like, Sephiroth, the silver-haired man's gonna like stab Aerith. So like even if you hadn't played FF7 vanilla, Marlene tells you what's going to happen. Be prepared, be scared. Those are the stakes. That is what is on the line at the end of this game. And I feel like that is paid off pretty well. It's funny. It's something I knew was going to happen when I played FF7 vanilla back in the day. We're talking, I think, like 1999 or 2000, actually. Like even back then, it was so well known. Aerith dies because Sephiroth stabs her. You lose a party member halfway through the game. Like that was like I knew that coming in, right? And so like, what's weird is Sephiroth the figure, right? Sephiroth the villain, the Smash Bros character, the guy who shows on T-shirts of like cool guys at high school. Sephiroth, like, he really does just drop in and stab her in both games. In vanilla, he just drops in, swoop, and like in this game, he really does. He just like whoop, and like there's no dialogue ahead of time. He's not like Aerith, I'm fuck you. He doesn't say anything. He just goes and just comes in a little whoop. And what I like about how it plays out in this one is that I mean, he does it. Obviously, I think about not obviously. What I think about is in our remake spoiler mode with Max back, 4 years ago. Him promising, him telling me, looking me into the camera lens and saying, "I promise you Aerith dies. There will be no, they will make you believe you can save Aerith. There will be no possible way to save Aerith." And obviously, like I'm thinking about that this whole time. And he was right. There's no possible way. It just has to happen. It has to happen that way. And I feel like the ending of this game tells us that in an interesting way. You know what I mean? I think it communicates that in an interesting way where you see her living and walking around and looking at the aircraft at the end of the game, right? You don't feel like she's dead. You don't feel like she's gone. But yeah, Sephiroth stabbed her. No doubt.
I mean, I was one who believed that we might change fate. So this is what I believed going into Rebirth.
Okay.
In Rebirth, we might save her from the moment that we expect her to die. But I thought at some point in this trilogy, she is still going to die. Like I thought they were just gonna like move it to a different spot, and then I partially believe that okay, maybe they really want to mess with us, and someone else is gonna die. So early on, I thought like, well, maybe they're gonna swap it. Maybe they kill Tifa this time, but after the I think they kind of pushed that as a red herring in the trailers, and I was like, okay, I don't think they're gonna go that route. It's like halfway through the game, I'm pretty convinced that's not what they're doing. I'm pretty sure we are leading up to something with like Aerith, and it's gonna be this game. And but like I kept thinking with the stuff they were doing with Zack, I feel like we're working towards something with Aerith and Zack here, and I feel like we're gonna get that noble sacrifice trope with the two of them. Like they either get like, you know, some like they'll get their happy ending in some way, but also like I still think they're both like not coming back. At least in your, you know, the main the timeline that we're in. I mean, sorry, I don't really mean to get in like timeline stuff, but like there are multiple timelines apparently, and I think the one that we've been following with our characters, I think Aerith and Zach are never coming back to that one. Like they're like Zach is gonna remain dead in that one. Aerith is gonna remain dead in that one, and they will never be a part of that again. But I refuse to believe that like this is the end of like Aerith. Like she's gonna be all over part 3. Like it absolutely she's gonna be a part of it. But like the thing that got me, Kyle, as I said,
Okay.
I was expecting that. But
The reason it wasn't a perfect score. Yep, here it comes.
This is like part of it. Part of it's like the pacing, how he like just rush through a bunch of stuff at the end. But for this moment, because of them trying to present me, the player, the viewer, with this kind of like visual information dump about, oh look, there are multiple timelines and choices create different timelines. And like in that moment, I'm not fully grasping that just yet. I don't have time to process that when I'm supposed to be having this emotional moment where did I save Aerith? Wait, I didn't save Aerith? I was so confused in that moment and trying to I'm struggling. Like, what am I actually seeing right now? Did we do it? Did I not do it? Did we just jump to another time? Like, I was just in a state of confusion that it took me completely out of any kind of like emotional attachment to the scene other than like confusion and like rushing. My brain's like, I got to figure this out so I can start feels so I can have the feels. This is the feels moment. But like, this game's telling me like it's tricking me. I'm like, what? Wait, what's going on? And like by the time I caught up, I was like, we're already like halfway through the fight in like the final fight. I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm still thinking about that, and like, all right, let me just start focusing on this because there's so much crazy shit going on in front of me that like let me just enjoy like the moment now, and like that was I'm just trying to capture my state of mind in that like that specific moment. And it was looking back, and I was like, I feel like I was robbed of, you know, a big emotional moment. And I don't know if they're planning to give something in down the line in the next installment. So for me, that was a miss for me. But so many people have come forth and said that was the point of that scene. You were supposed to feel that in that scene. So I don't know what you think about that. If you felt that way, Kyle, and if you agree with that stance, or if you have your own take on what was, you know, why people feel that way.
Yeah, I love that. So talking about like the project, talking about remake the project, and what I love so much about what they're doing with it is that it's never been a remake, right? It's always been like we're swerving on this one. We're doing intentional swerves, and that's how we're going to make this interesting. That's the best way we can think to make this a compelling 3-part game, is to add on and evolve and try new choices. And so to do the exact same beat for beat, if Cloud was too late and Sephiroth did just go and then just kind of fuck off and like give you 10 minutes to cry, I would be unsatisfied. I would be like, wait, we already, come on. This is what we expect. Don't show me what I expect. At this point, it's too late to give us what we expect. Maybe if it was a 1-to-1, if they promised that from the very beginning, if all of Remake was 1-to-1 with no whispers, then maybe like, you know, you would expect the same thing to end at the same time. But no, for me, we expect a swerve, right? And the swerve that they delivered was like, hey man, it's like she's dead and she's alive. You know, like Sephiroth stabbed her, but he didn't stab her. You know, it's like they found like a nice like space for conjecture and room for buying themselves 3 more years to make another game. You know, I feel like most of the people who played this game will be back for part 3, and that's tough to do, especially when you kill off a beloved character.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, I think that's a good analysis of it at this point. The more I've like sat and thought on it as well, Kyle, I think this might also have been their approach, because they got to change things up. For veterans, we already know Cloud is an unreliable narrator because, he has wrong memories. He's remembering Zack. But, like, that's not the mystery anymore. So I think this is their way of, like, pushing that unreliable narrators. It's not false memories. It's, are you actually watching what you're watching? Is it this timeline? Is it a different timeline? Like, I think they're keep that whole end sequence with the timeline jumps and, like, the different stamp images, if you pay attention. I think that's what they're doing. I think they're trying to, like, make you, the player viewer, like, we want you to be confused about what you're seeing because we don't want you to piece this together just yet, because we do have a part 3. Like, I do think this does this gambit does hinge a lot on them sticking the landing with part 3 and having, like, a satisfying, like, I don't know necessarily think it needs to be a satisfying explanation, but a satisfying resolution that either builds off of, like, the confusion we're feeling, or at least gives us, satisfying character conclusions for everybody. But, like, that's where that's my take now, is that this is their new way of making Cloud the unreliable narrator. He's just seeing so many damn visions of so many different realities. It's like, what do you what can you believe? And, like, it's him. That's why he's so messed up. It's like, he's got the degradation stuff that they keep, holding over his head, but now it's like he's seeing things no one else is being able to see, apparently. So it's like, to everyone else, he seems cold, heartless, crazy, whatever you want to call it in the end, because they're like, what is wrong with Cloud? But, like, to us, we're getting to see what he sees. Like, anyone would be screwed up in that situation. Like, he thinks she's still alive, or he's seeing this. He's, like, looking up and seeing, like, a tear in this. Like, yeah. And the more I think about, like, this is actually, people are going to probably look back at this, but, like, that was a really good scene. Like, they did such a good job of making him seem so, like, out of his mind because of where they're going to go with it. Hopefully that's what I'm hoping, is that this pays off very nicely, that, like, he's just going out of his mind in a new way. Because we can't just do the simple trick of, oh, he's remembering, like, Zack and everything. Like, nah, that's not good enough. That's too simple.
Yeah, like, that's the stuff I had low patience for. Even when back at game trailers. So, like, this is, like, it's like late 2015. With Brad and Ben, I was doing a playthrough of FF7 again, and, like, the moments where, like, Cloud was, like, not control of himself made no sense to me, and I couldn't, like, get into it, right? When he is, like, giving Sephiroth the black materia and all that. And so, like, I think a real strength of the remake games is that, like, I get it better now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They're communicating those things much stronger. And,
I
like,
agree,
kind of,
Kyle.
The final dungeon where Aerith, like, gives a really nice speech after everybody, like, goes into their trauma zones and, like, relives the worst part of their lives. Cloud doesn't have to do it, so everybody's already like, Cloud, you didn't have to do what we just did. But, like, the way he shuts her down and says, like, are you finished yet? And, like, those Cloud vibes are so interesting, and you really don't see a lot of RPGs ever make their main character so unlikable, And so, like, I like how they're communicating it with this. They're making you feel bad about, controlling this character. Like, oh, I gotta move him now, and so I like the way that they're communicating that stuff in the remake.
And honestly, to a degree, I mean, I think they're doing it much better now because they have, it's just a different style than the original. I agree with you. Like, the original one, I was like I only, like, after the fact, I was like, oh, Cloud was acting like that because I read a bunch of stuff on GameFAQs where people explained what was going on. Like, oh, Sephiroth, aka Genova, was pulling the strings. I was like, oh, okay. I sort of didn't, like, fully get that, but, like, okay, if that's what's true, I get why he was doing in the OG version, but in the moment, I was like, why is he actually doing this? I'm a little lost, but so, like, I'm a little, like, but to the point, the OG7, they're following the blueprint of of Cloud's character arc, and that starts off as, like, supposedly cool, badass soldier, and then he has this big fall. Like, he breaks down and, like, he is exposed, and then he has to, like, rebuild himself and the real him and, like, rise up from that. And I think that, they're just doing that again, that path, but, like, in a different way. In the first game, he is, still that like cool soldier type, and he's like the hero, but like they got to break him down now. They have to show like his flaws. He has to have this fall, and that's what's happening here. I mean, we've seen the start of that fall. I think he's gonna like. I think the part 3 he'll probably fall even harder before he like rises back up. But I think they need to have that moment where like we have to believe this character is fallible and like could lose and not win, because like especially if they're going for this approach that's not a 1-to-1 remake, we have to believe things can like be radically different at any moment. It's like this could radically change, and I think they're setting up. It's like, yeah, Cloud's crazy right now. Who the hell knows what he's gonna do and like how it's gonna play out? I'm like, yeah, I'd be worried about him too.
Can you imagine if like Persona 5 ever dared to allow you to think the main character isn't cool?
They would absolutely no.
They would never do it.
No, it would,
Persona 5 would never.
It's like they wouldn't be allowed to call it Persona. They'd have to call it something else. In the development section
That's
on the wiki,
so
it'd be like, Persona 7 started out as a game like this, but then they decided the protagonist had to not be cool at a part, and they're like, no, that's not the Persona way.
Yeah.
I will say there is another RPG, a Japanese RPG that did make you have made the main character very unlikable at a certain point, and then had to rebuild them a while. So Tales of the Abyss, your main character is like they're all young characters, but he's kind of like the cool teen, like hip, like older teen type, archetype, like very shonen style. And then he encounters something that like rocks his world and like makes him question his identity. And he falls hard. He starts doubting everything. He loses all sense of self. He becomes like the extremist, like emo, to like use shorthand here. Not quite that, but like everyone starts hating him, and he's like just horrible. And you're like, this guy sucks. And you're like, why do I?
And he's still the guy you control and move around.
And then he has a redemption arc, and it's like, dude, here we go. Like, all right, he's like, he's trying to find himself, and like. It's very like more shonen anime archetype. So it's like, I don't know if it'll be as well done as it's going to possibly be done in the remake trilogy, but it was like the first time I encountered that in an RPG, especially a Japanese developed RPG. It was like they dared to make their character uncool. It's like the only moments I can remember is Tales of the Abyss, and then what they did in Gurren Lagann. It's like, oh, like where they dared so early to do something so radical. It's like, no anime would ever dare to do that. It's like, hold my beer, here you go. So maybe, now remake will be like, hey, we're the first like remake style project that's daring to do something like that with our main character.
So, yeah, I mean, like, what is interesting is like breaking this game up into 3 pieces, right? Is like, so the third game will be Cloud's redemption arc. By the end of that game, Cloud's going to be like, I love how he communicates with Aerith at the very, very end, final cutscene. You know what I mean? He's like so like direct and plain and like comfortable with her. It's almost like a different delivery than you see him at any other point in the game. But anyway, I feel like you're going to have like lucid Cloud basically by the end of the third game, which is exciting, like narratively, right? But like, I wonder like what the pitch is. So like with this game, the pitch is we're going big open world, right? Like this very simple thing, the thing that somebody sees within the first 10 seconds of a trailer is huge environments. We're going to like a casino, lots of mini games. Everybody's in bikinis. Like this game's going to be fun. Right? So like, what do you do marketing wise with part 3?
All right. I'll do my audition for Square Enix marketing job.
Please.
You're going to open with like Cloud snowboarding. You're going to be showing snowboarding. You're going to be showing submarines. You're going to be showing going into submarine. You're going to show them going underwater exploration, like deep sea exploration.
Boring. You're already losing me.
You're going to show, but it's going to lead into the weapon fight. You're going to see like emerald weapon. Like, what the hell is this crazy ass fight? Like giant ass scale fight. Everyone's been criticizing. Like, you got some good combat system here, but man, Final Fantasy 16 just beats you out with scale and like insanity with fights. weapons. That's part 3 is like weapons. Here you go. Here's your Final Fantasy 16 style, like kaiju style fight. There you go. Insanity. And like multiple members. Maybe you have to swap them out at certain parts. Like it's like the final fight of Rebirth, but like earlier. Okay. So you got that. And then like the money shot is like getting on the high wind, seamlessly going over like the overworld map, being able to land and find like hidden caves and like hidden locations. And you don't like that, Kyle? You don't like the airship? You don't like the airship?
Not enough.
You don't like so you don't want like airship combat then? When you're fighting with a one weapon fight in the airship, it's actually a battle sequence where you're actually having to like go around the high wind, like man the cannons, like doing a real like fight against the weapon on the airship.
We're getting somewhere, but what is missing is like the bikinis. What is missing is
that's the slap scene on the cannon. You're gonna get Tifa and Scarlet walking up to each other. You're getting that slap mini game, just like that new game that came out, that indie game, the slapping game. Yeah. Oh, they're gonna have a crossover with that too. By the way, there's just gonna be a slap fight right on there, and this is like people have been waiting for that Scarlet Tifa slap fight forever, and they're just gonna do it perfectly.
Like what's funny is like they've set up a lot of drama, right? They've set up the war with Wutai, which again just doesn't like pop in trailers. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like I don't think to any like a broader audience, you can't say like we will reveal Swerve.
Oh, we're not done yet.
Nobody's gonna care. Okay,
we know who Swerve. Everyone, if Swerve has been technically revealed now, but like we won't say that because that's outside of Rebirth spoilers, so we don't need to get into that. But,
technically revealed, you say?
Oh yeah, the book revealed kind of who it is. I mean, you could put 2 and 2 together at this point, and then it's already been like there was evidence that was suggesting who it was before. But anyway, the best stuff, Kyle, like the real good stuff. We're gonna show you that Knights of the Round summon in action, baby. Oh yeah, that like it's gonna be like a CG sequence, baby. You're not gonna be able to skip it. It's gonna be like it's like
promise me 10 minutes.
They will say like we will not accept PlayStation crash reports for that. That is a badge of honor if your PlayStation 5 crashes during that sequence.
We will deny all crash reports.
Yeah, we will deny those. Similarly, they're gonna show off Sephiroth's supernova attack, destroying the solar system with that attack, planets being obliterated. That's also going to be another 10-minute thing. So you're going to like summon Knights of the Round, and then he's going to summon Supernova, and you're going to see those things go head to head. And it's like, how do you make this in the video game? This is insane. How can PlayStation 5 run this? That's not possible.
Basically, what I'm pulling from you broadly is that the sell how you would really sell the game is if the second one is fun, the third one is like epic. Like this is going to be the most epic video game you've ever
expected played. Stuff that like the things you are expecting to see. Because they got to reassure you. And they did that with Rebirth. A lot of the trailer footage reassured you, but then they had a few like, is that different? Like, oh, why is Cloud like screaming at Tifa and walking at her with his sword drawn? It's like, oh no, is he going to kill Tifa? Like, we got to have a few of those thrown in there. Sure. Also, you're going to see Sid game, like actual Sid combat, actual Vincent combat. Oh yeah, the 2 characters you've been like waiting the most to play because like Dragoon gameplay, like Vincent's God gameplay.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Can I tell you something? I never used jump. You get jump materia in this game. I never used it because it's like, no, I'll wait for Sid.
Exactly. I'm like this feels like cheating. This feels like a discount. Right. This is I will not accept this, Square Enix. How dare you? This is like Sid's specialty. In fact, if Sid's jump animation is just this Materia's animation, oh, you're getting docked a point right now, baby. It better be way cooler than that. Like,
yeah, like camera moves up behind him, and then you can like aim and just go to the floor or something.
It needs to be just like Final Fantasy 16 when the Dragoon jumps up and you get like that, like in the fight with the Dragoon. It's like, it better be that sick. It better be better than that. You got your work cut out for you. And Vincent, we already fought like him in boss form. It's like, that better be like his limit break, baby. Like, I want to see him going in like that beast form, and like I want to play as that and wreck stuff as like that. Yeah, like they also like, you know, they have some more, you know, what are they gonna do with summons? You know, what other cooler summons could they possibly bring besides? I mean, I said Knights of the Round, but like, is that gonna be it? Will they have some other cool stuff in
There's
there?
one more Bahamut.
Oh yeah, because there's like
Uh,
3 Bahamets, so we've gotten
yeah.
2. We need one
I, th-
more.
I think it's called Neo, right? Is it Neo Bahamut? The one is
Well,
metal, the robot one.
oh yeah,
Zero. Okay, Zero.
Bahamut 0. Oh yeah, and
What
it's
the
gonna.
one in this game is called like Bahamut Origin, right?
Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna stick with the same naming convention,
Yeah.
but I do
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
like they could get us, you know, some sick stuff there. And
Excellent
also,
comment from chat. Here's everybody who's left out:
okay,
Typhoon, Bahamut Zero, Knights of the Round, and Hades. Hades. Would be
gotcha. But they could also bring in a bonus one like they did with Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh
Sure.
was not in Final Fantasy VII, so they could bring in a guest character summon.
So the boar with like 3 snouts, that was originally in FF7?
Oh, Kujata? Yes.
Yeah.
I mistook that for something else in the original trailer, but that's definitely one
I
of the
forgot
I just
about
never
Kujata.
I never used them.
Same, bro.
Yeah, but I mean I mean it's nice that they had them in there, you know, no one left behind with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like do they like go big so honestly, Kyle, I do think they can make a pretty sexy trailer that like gets you very hyped. I think it like a lot of the work is done for them. Especially like dangling mysteries over us. They could like show like a random Zack scene. It's like, oh god, what he's in. Just put them in places you would never expect them to be. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh my god, we're gonna go there with that character. It's like, oh, I don't, and like I do think if they could just show the airship gameplay, like actual airship gameplay, because that's like the and the other big question, Kyle, for me, if we're gonna have airship gameplay, we're gonna be able to explore this whole open world map. What are they doing with all the old areas to make them interesting to go back to? I think that is another as big of a problem as solving the airship gameplay is how do they make old environments interesting to
Right.
go back through?
Do you expect to ever go back to Calm? Will there ever be a reason, you know?
Well,
I
I
bet
mean,
they'll let you, but like, why spend any development time on Calm anymore?
I feel like they have to like come up with something to go back there, but like it shouldn't be something that is like a driving need to go back there during the main story. I feel like maybe there's something like either post game or late game, like hunts. I hope it's not just hunts, but it's like, oh, all these wild beasts, because like the weapons have been broke loose and more aggressive monsters are now roaming the world. So I'm hoping like something like that, but also like maybe transformative. Maybe an event does happen and the world's landscape gets altered, you know, like
Ooh, I
World of
like that.
Darkness stuff. Like maybe they go that route. You never know. I don't think, yeah, like I know we're getting a low theory captain, but like I think the part 3 is going to go beyond the scope of the original, you know, game's ending and like last moments. So who knows what crazy stuff they have planned for us. And yeah,
You inspired an idea. I actually know how to like fucking sell 10 million extra copies.
okay, Kyle, 10 million. All right, go ahead.
Here's what it is. The trailer ends with the golden saucer, right? It's nighttime, and you see the giant Ferris wheel, and inside the Ferris wheel, you see Cloud pensively staring at Zack. Cut. So you're like, how are Cloud and Zack on the Ferris wheel at the same time? How's this even
I
possible?
know.
And then you're also like, are they on a date? What do they feel about each other? Like, what is about to happen here? I'll find out when I buy that game.
You think that's going to sell 10 million more copies?
Yes, because that's it. That's at least that, Damiani, that's how you play with expectations. That's how you fuck around with this, because you're saying if this is happening and this is happening, then what is happening?
Okay, well, I thought you're gonna. Okay, I mean, maybe I won't rule it out. It's possible. Maybe, I mean, I think that's probably like a 6.7 million copy like pitch idea,
fine.
but like not quite 10 million. I mean, the 10 million one is like you kind of like said the magic word in a previous discussion, a topic, Persona. You just have a sequence where they all go to high school and all the Final Fantasy characters are in high school, and you just make a Persona chapter where they're all in like cool clothes and they're doing like their high school routine and like there's like the bonds and the dating. that will get like that will immediately, and then they go into a dungeon. It's all stylized. Oh yeah,
You know
that will
what?
get you to 10 million.
You're not wrong about this. You're honestly like, yeah, if they had like at like we're just talking like the last 5 seconds of a trailer, right?
Yeah,
Them just all sitting together in a classroom, and then like somebody like Red 13 passing a note to Yuffie. You know what I mean? Like just honestly, like that's all you need is just a little to build the mystery.
exactly. And
That's
like
more the type of stuff I'm
no,
expecting.
the
Like
one I'm
I was expecting to have my mind blown and see things absolutely outside of the realm of what I thought was possible in Final Fantasy.
I'm just not fully decided yet if Sephiroth
All
is
right.
going to be like the class professor and he walks the shot last shot's him walking in and he's writing a name and it says like I'll be your teacher, Professor Sephiroth. Or is he one of like the kids? Is he one of them? Like is that like where some of the, like the drama like do we cast him as their age or is he going to be like their mentor? So then if he's not the professor, is like Hojo the professor then? Are we going to go that route and be like, "Ooh, yikes, this guy." Like I don't know cuz like I feel like for fan service, Sephiroth being the professor could work, but also him being like kind of like the fold because then you definitely get those Cloud Sephiroth like ships and those fics going. And I think
Wait,
we got to get
what does it
that
mean to be a fold?
of like a fold to him, like his rival, like the
Oh,
like.
you foil.
Oh, did I say fold? I'm sorry, foil.
No,
I said fold.
I think you said foil. I think you said foil and I heard fold.
No, I said fold, but I think I meant foil, but I did not hear it. But yes, a foil. Yeah, like yeah, I said fold.
No, that's just the Texas
Hey,
accent.
okay, foil, FOIL, as in like a rival to him, because I think that's more appealing to them. Yes. No,
Okay.
he's gonna fold. They're
Oh,
gonna
sorry.
fold. They're gonna fold on each other. I mean that. I mean,
Hey, man.
yeah.
But anyway, sorry. I'm genuinely serious about that being a good idea. I think that like a crossover would not be mind blowing. You know what I mean? Like seeing like the Gilgamesh stuff I actually love to death. I like seeing more Final Fantasy typical shit. I actually like them introducing that a lot. But if they were ever to be like, yeah, we're crossing over with other universes, that'll really blow your mind. I don't think they'll ever touch on that. It's not their style, right? But like I honestly love the school idea. I love like just like okay, the timelines are getting a little messed up, but like let's see one that's just totally trashed. Let's see one that's absolutely demolished. I loved the hint of that when it's like the first one you see where you see Aerith, who's actually not your current day Aerith, but probably the Aerith who knows everything. And the people in that world are like, yeah, here's some candy. And also, my world's about to blow up. Like, these are my final days. They're like so accepting of the fact that their sky is like all yellow and that world's about to pop, right? That stuff is so interesting to me. And I hope that there's a way more of that in part 3.
I hope they show a world like how it ends. Like I'm very curious, like what actually happens. Like does
Yeah.
it just like vanish? You know, is it like how what is their vision? Is it like just the planet? Like is it like the sequence where the planet loses all its like energy and crumbles apart? Is it gonna be like that? Or is it just like gonna be snapped out of existence like Thanos? I don't know. Like I want to know. Like I don't want them to cop out on that. I want them
They
to
need
show
a good particle effect.
Yes, I want to see how that plays out. But my real quick question for you, Kyle, is like, wait, like what kind of like is there another cameo from another Final Fantasy game you'd like to see appear? Because we had Gilgamesh. Like, is there another Final Fantasy character that could serve the role of what Gilgamesh served? Because you were sort of talking about it. Like, who would you want to see? Do you have someone in mind? And if you don't, that's cool.
So I mean, I would like for it to be like more summons. So it kind of like, summons is you pulling this, godlike being out from another universe. So I feel like that probably, like I'm summoning shit. I don't know. Like you're summoning.
Is there anyone from like FF9 that sticks out or that's not already
Arc,
in?
Arc is like the final 6 summon in FF9. That one's really cool. But like, yeah, you know what? I'm not being serious though. Is that like honestly, like yeah, like pulling in like a black mage would be so sick. Yeah, I guess I'd be pleased by anything.
Okay. Yeah.
Why, is there one you had in mind?
No, I didn't know if there's like something that I was like, just curious because I kind of like went on my little tangent there. I didn't know if
Yeah.
you had one. I mean,
No.
sometimes
It's
people
'cause,
have
like,
like
I
favorites
don't.
that don't appear.
Yeah, I don't like walk in with like I want this. I like am pleased by things I don't expect. So I would say it like more on that end. I did not expect to have this whole Gilgamesh thing. And like to even like go to his island and like I did expect to fight him. I didn't expect him to become a summon, right? So like even like
Yeah.
summoning him in those final fights is so fun. So yeah, obviously it's something like that, right? I don't
Yeah.
want to tell them. I don't want to tell them what to do.
Okay, that makes sense. I did remember something. So this might be one of the limiting factors of what they might be willing to do.
Uh-oh.
Gilgamesh was already kind of like a timeline universe hopping entity
That's
in
his
his own
thing.
game.
That's his thing. Yeah.
So maybe if they stuck to that, then there are a few more. There's a little bit more of a limitation. So something
Mhm.
like Omega would be possible, but like they're like a dimension reality timeline hopping entity as well. But I don't know if they'd want to do something like that because what kind of personality? I mean, Omega's personality is a robot who's like trying to like create ultimate like power, ultimate weapon type
Oh, is
stuff.
this an FF14 thing?
No, this is Omega in general. It's like like a
What do
perfect
you mean in
weapon.
general?
Omega, it's also Final Fantasy V, right?
I don't know. I've never played 5.
Okay, you never played 5. All right.
I think
Well,
you're talking about this because of FF14.
it's also in 16. It's also in Omega's in more than just those games. Omega's
Okay, I
in
mean,
10. I
yeah. In 16,
yeah.
he's not multiverse popping though. He's
Yeah.
just like, I want to control this realm. That's like he just wants that realm.
Oh, Rinder pointed out there is an Omega weapon in Dirge of Cerberus. So, okay, I didn't know that. I didn't play Dirge of Cerberus. I have
Oh,
like
I'm getting
no.
Omega and Ultima confused. My apologies.
Oh, well,
Um,
Ultima is already going to be in Final Fantasy VII. It's
okay,
Ultima weapon. Oh, I mean Ultima weapon because it's
right.
one of the weapons. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
No, I don't know. I don't know about Omega, I guess. A multiverse traveling robot who's been in Final Fantasy 5, 10,
So
12.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm trying to like set it up as like because there's a certain enemy that wasn't in Rebirth that people hope might make it into remake or part 3. Tank Ceratops, the dinosaur tank thing.
Count on it.
And
Yeah.
what if
Count on
like
it.
Omega's trying to make ultimate like enemies to defeat Cloud and the crew because they're like, oh, you like saved the world or whatever in the end. It's like post game content, but hey, guess what? Like Chadley was really like Omega, and like guess what? Like I really want to see if we can create like the ultimate enemy to defeat you, Cloud. And you get Tank Ceratops, is like what comes out. So only a crazy delusional and a crazy maniacal robot can come up with something as ridiculous as Tank Ceratops. So that's like one of the early fights you get. It's like, what the hell are we fighting here? Like what is
Yeah.
this? Who would think of this? The robot did. There you go.
Love that.
Mm.
Also touching upon evil Chadley, it's like one of the things I'm most excited about potentially in the third game.
Do you think Chadley will play an integral role in the story, like, or do you think it'll just be a mechanism for side activities? Still, do you think they'll cross
He'll
that
be
line?
on like Corneo level. So if you think like the Corneo bit was like integral, then like yes, but like he'll be on that level, I think.
Okay,
Like there's gonna be another fucking Corneo thing in the third game too. He'll show up
that's
again, and then
true.
you finally
That is
get him to
true.
change his
We're
ways.
also gonna need like more Johnny as well. Like
There will be
Johnny's
more
gonna come
Johnny.
back. I don't know
Yeah.
if you like Johnny or not. Or if
Didn't
you,
before, but I love Johnny's gimmick in this game. And you know what? He's isolated in that bit.
okay.
He's not recurring. You choose how much Johnny you want to have access to, basically.
Mm-hmm. And we're also gonna have to like. I feel like we're gonna have to fight Hojo because they're like something's going on with Hojo, man. Hojo also knows stuff. And, he knows too much. He's not sharing that info either.
Oh yeah,
I'm scared of Hojo.
Hojo's got like 6 or 7 schemes, all running concurrently, all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
He's like injecting people with Sephiroth cells. He's like, I got to get a giant materia. He's like, I got an evil Chadley number 7. He's got like multiple things he's always doing.
Mm-hmm. Chad also hit on an idea that I like. The Jethro and also Render middle manager guy coming back and possibly being one of the summon materials for fun. I'd like that. Summon middle
So like
manager.
he passes away. Like he said, you go back to Midgar, right? You attack it and like you accidentally kill that man somehow. You know what I mean? You smash through a window that he was sitting right next to. He dies, becomes part of the live stream, but like he leaves behind a little ball of materia, and then you can summon him into battle. That would be really, really cool.
Mm-hmm. He's gonna have a good one-liner.
What did he say? I hated this man until his final line, where he's like, he talked about the creed of the middle manager or something like that. He's got a line.
Oh yeah, it's
got a
like
creed.
it was nice.
Yeah.
I also liked when he was on the beach and like started saying like "fuck you, Shinra." That was pretty nice. His little like
you could tell he
therapeutic
didn't mean
moment.
It. You know, he was going right back.
He didn't mean it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a family and kids, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
he was just on a vacation. He's kind of like, yeah, nah. We'll see. We'll have to see. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to touch upon with like Rebirth? That we really haven't talked about in terms of like, you know, stuff you liked or didn't like, especially when it comes to like the characters or story.
And I just like constantly appalled by like how creative it is, you know what I mean? How like pleasant it can be when it wants to be pleasant. It feels like they amplified the scale in a way like I can't comprehend. Just the game is enormous. And it feels like an execution on a promise that like I didn't think could ever pay out like it is currently. It's like it is one of my favorite games I've ever played, and it was such a nice thing to just be able to like pick it up 2 or 3 or 4 times. So a lot of late nights, stayed up till 6 a.m. for like a whole damn month. It was just so nice to be able to like play that game at that pace and just enjoy it in its fullness. So just treat.
Yeah. I condensed it into like 2 weeks, and that's what I had to do. But yeah,
that's probably rough. Yeah, 2 weeks. I imagine that's crunching it a bit, but yeah.
It was no, I really like. I was like, why do I have to sleep? Why? Like when this game exists, I could be playing Rebirth right now. What am I doing with my life? Sleeping? What a waste. I do want to. I'm curious. Do you think Part 3 needs to be as big in scale and scope, or maybe even bigger than Rebirth?
Sadly, I think that producers are telling the teams it has to be bigger. They're probably right. A producer, like executive producer levels, probably saying like, can you maybe not spend so much time and money on this one? So like maybe they'll cut it back. I would appreciate it if they cut it back, but I just got a feeling they're going to go even harder.
That's a good point, because I know we didn't really touch upon that. It's not really the topic, but we did have a recent like report from an insider who said, oh, Rebirth is selling about half as much as Remake at the same point in their sales timeline. And you'd have to wonder if that's actually true. Executives are probably like the higher up executives like, oh yeah, you're gonna have to definitely cut back, unless they already like budgeted the whole trilogy already, like, nah, we're on this path, we agreed to it, we set ourselves on this, there's no stopping this train now. It could just be that, and they're like, we're committed.
I don't think you get to say that to the board,
Oh, I meant like they like everyone approved it. Like even the board was on board. So like you got to live and die by this at this point. Like we already greenlit all this, and it's like if this can't do well, then we're kind of like screwed as a company. That's a whole other topic. We actually talked about earlier this week on the Easy Allies podcast, and I was like, I think like Blood was like trying to like question me on my like beliefs that I felt like exclusivity is like absolutely hurting the remake trilogy from a brand from a brand perspective, like from just like fan perspective, like how big of a game this should be. Like I don't even like necessarily care like how it like fun, like I just want to do enough that they can keep making them, but it's like limiting it to like one platform for launch. It's like so many people don't get to jump in day one and be a part of that event. You're just like, and like, even if like the PC version comes out 3 months later, I think it's like, maybe you sell well, but like, you're kind of like, I felt like it's like you're fighting with like one hand tied behind your back, or more than that. If this came out on everything, especially in like Remake as well, this should be a much bigger deal. And it had a big build up, but I think part of the problem is none of people have access to it, and they get upset and they move on. There's so many other games, so many other things to do with their time. You're dealing with that. It's not a guarantee. It doesn't matter what your plans are. You get them when you can get them, which is like the launch, like the focused window of an initial launch. Don't bank on a PC release how many years, months, or a year later, or any alternative versions like being your resurgence. It's never a guaranteed thing.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things there. Is like for sure, like FF7 remake was PS4, which
Yeah.
like there was easier to, and that was during COVID, right? The start of lockdown where like everybody was just playing Animal Crossing or FF7. But all right, so Damiani, I'm gonna push back just like Bloodworth did on this. I got a feeling that Sony paid up big for this, and the reason they do is to make their product, the PlayStation 5, feel special. And what I would call about this game, and I realize this is like condescending and like messed up. This game is simply more special than most other games. The game is more special than Helldivers 2. The game is it's like a premium speedboat, bro. Like it's like a sandwich you shouldn't buy. You go to a fancy restaurant and there's something on there that just costs way too much money, and you say like, "Oh, okay, that's for the upper crust members of this restaurant. I suppose I'll get something. I'll get Helldivers 2, thank you." You know what I mean? Like Damiani, this game at launch doesn't belong on PC.
Okay.
It is too special for that.
It's okay. So the thing is, I'm coming from this to be logical here. When I say brand, I'm talking about like expanding audience and getting as many people into Final Fantasy, because I do feel like it's a bit of an aging series.
So what, should I just make it like $5 just to get most people?
And I think Square Enix cares about this because they did put out that statement saying, oh, they felt Final Fantasy 16 expanded its reach to a younger audience, which they had more difficulty approaching. So I think like something like Helldivers 2, while I think you're thinking Rebirth is special because it's like to people like us who are veterans, who are already invested. I think it's not succeeding in people who are not already invested in Final Fantasy VII specifically. I feel like it's harder for them to get invested in a thing that's going to be multiple parts and have big numbers at the end of their title. This is something that's been like an issue with them. So with like brand, I feel like you need to do yourselves as many favors as possible. So putting it out on as many platforms day and date helps you reach a wider audience. That to me is like the baseline. Now, I will concede, a lot of people love to bring up, well, it benefited from only having to be developed on one platform. Like that could absolutely be true because it was only developed on PlayStation. The PlayStation version is as good technically like as it is because it was only on there, and it gives them more time to polish for port jobs. I don't know development well enough to be able to speak to that, whether it would have been like a bigger mess of a game if it had to come out on bigger platforms, or would have taken longer to develop.
It would have taken longer. They don't have a PC version ready to go today. Like, it would take more time.
But I do think they need to find ways to start appealing to more people. If the executives are like, yo, this game is not selling enough, these games are not selling enough, what do you do? Like if the fan service nostalgia remake isn't the joke of hitting the panic button, Square Enix, do it, make 7 remake, you sell hundreds of million copies or whatever, that's not coming to fruition. And like what has to happen for the franchise at this point? And to
me, it is like an incredibly I do think about this stuff a lot, right? It's like I don't think a game like this is broadly viable as like a thing that you expect to sell 20 million copies. Sometimes I'm still surprised by that constantly, by the games that do end up selling extremely well. But like the ideal Final Fantasy VII game is simply not a popular product. You know what I mean? It's kind of like we're talking about at the beginning, right? Like it's like Final Fantasy is never going to be Minecraft. It'll never be as like YouTubed as Minecraft is. There will never be as many players of Final Fantasy games as Minecraft. And so where Final Fantasy makes that up is unfortunately being a $70 game on like a stupid expensive console. You know what I mean? Like there's I think a cap on the audience for a Final Fantasy VII remake. Um and so like I have to like we have no idea unfortunately how much money Sony assisted with this.
Yeah,
But I got a
that's
feeling, Damiani, I got a feeling it like makes up the difference. And so like the question is, would you rather have this much money with this much audience or this much money with
okay.
it's hard to say where the PC would come in and at what point.
That's what I was trying to get on like the podcast earlier. Is like
Yeah.
we don't have that information. Where is that the person who makes these decisions? Where is that threshold for like both directions? Like how much money are we getting versus like you were talking about like what is like the upper cap? Like if we were to do all like the best ideas to expand the audience for a Final Fantasy game, what is like the upper threshold and how much will we bring in for that? But also like I'm thinking like long term, it's like is Sony's exclusivity like yes, they're making good money behind the scenes, but is it making future Final Fantasy games less and less viable in terms of like sales? So the one day when Sony no longer potentially pays for that, where does it leave the series? Like is like that's what I'm like that I'm thinking long term, but also I also get there's probably an upper limit for everything, but and everyone chat's like correctly pointing out the series has never been like the hugest seller except for like OG 7 and 10 are their two best selling entries, and also they were originally restricted to a single platform as well. But we saw another long, storied, very well liked, very critically acclaimed series make the jump to a different style of game and blew up in sales with Zelda and Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, selling like way more than the Zelda series had ever sold.
I should have known. Coming on solo queue would come right back to Zelda.
Well, I mean, it's an easy example, but like just literally they can't just do Breath of the Wild with Final Fantasy, but there are ways to, there are paths, there are things. Is it just literally
trapped me into another Zelda? You trapped me. I walked right into your Zelda trap.
We don't need to talk about Zelda. I'm just giving you an example that like we'll stick to Final Fantasy. Is there a way? Like that's what I'm asking. That's the question. There might not be an answer, Kyle. Like, but I told you, I'm thinking from a marketing perspective. Yeah, I told you I'm thinking from the Square Enix perspective. Where do we make more money? Where do we make this franchise bigger? That's what they're thinking.
So what is kind of crazy about, and it's really interesting that you bring up FF7 and FF10 are the best-selling Final Fantasies that I did not know. I think a huge part of both of those games is how next gen they feel. How they are at the time of their release the best looking game you can play, like the most innovative game you've ever played in your life, and so like that is a bit of like opportunity. So when you talk about this broad audience, right, there's a lot of people who bought Final Fantasy X when it came out in 2001, who like just like booted it up and played it for 4 or 5 hours and then never completed it, right? They didn't become Final Fantasy fans for life, but they played a really cool next-gen game on their PlayStation 2, and it was the nicest looking game they've ever played with the nicest looking characters, and it had full voice acting, and it was just a nice thing to have. And so, like, a bit of the question is, like, are those people, like, do you want to, like, make the big, broad game that just, like, and, like, you can't, though. That's the thing, is you can't aim to do that. There will never be another Final Fantasy X moment, and there will be another vanilla Final Fantasy VII moment. You can't like bank on those. And so like, I think what they do is create fans with these games. I like, you know what I mean? Like this game makes me a freaking fan. And so like, I do like the idea of like absolutely rethinking something like a Breath of the Wild style that can't be Final Fantasy 17.
Oh no. So that's not what I'm like. I don't like, yeah, I agree. I get into that, but like you're saying like, I lied. I said we're not gonna talk about Zelda anymore, but like, that's what I used to think about, like Ocarina of Time. Like it was a product of its time, a very special moment in history. That's why it was previously the best-selling Zelda. It was like you're never going to be able to replicate it. That is the limit of the series. Then comes along Breath of the Wild, but like you're pointing out important things, like the X factors. Switch. Like would Breath of the Wild have been a big of deal if it was just on Wii U? No. Like it would not have sold that many copies. It was Switch effect. Like we have to acknowledge, like even though it was at Switch launch, There was so much hype around that, but like it kept selling too. But I think it was a lot due to the Switch hype factor. I mean, is it like, do we go back to this and is this as simple as like PS5 just doesn't have enough install base yet? Sadly, it's like, it is what it is. If this was like remake came on PS4 and it, you know, it sold very well because it was on PS4 originally. And then I don't know if they've ever gotten the sales totals for all other versions, PC and PS5. Is it really as simple as like if they made like for the future of the series, if Switch 2 is the hottest thing in the world that sells like 200 million units in its lifetime, beating everything, it's like if 17 launches on Switch 2 and like as well as other platforms, does that ensure? Is it as simple as that? I don't think it is, but like I mean, I guess I was maybe downplaying like the platform angle a little bit, like the install base.
Damiani, I love that point because you're so right. I'm thinking of the alternate universe where Breath of the Wild is just a Wii U game. You know what I mean? You got me thinking about that. And so like nobody's making the argument that like Breath of the Wild would be like the franchise would be in a better space if they just released that on PC. Surely it would have more players. More people would have bought that on PC. They would have had more sales, right? But what Breath of the Wild does for Nintendo is like, you know, it made that moment so special on the Switch. It made the platform more special. And obviously that game sold really well regardless. So like, I do think that like, I'm getting the point, right? I get the point that like, yeah, Square Enix is off on their own. They're not Sony, right? They need their franchise is their console. That's their IP is Final Fantasy. And like, what does Final Fantasy take to expand? And so I get it. I get it for that point. But yeah, you can't, shit. All right. Yeah, I guess Final Fantasy 17 can absolutely be cross-platform. They should. You know what? You convinced me. They should be cross-platform. They should take Sony's check. They should tear it up in front of their faces. And they should say, Final Fantasy 17 is actually a crafting game with low-grade graphics. It's a crafting with, there's a lot of physics that go on. And like, that's what they should do, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a much more complicated thing, even in everything we talked about. I mean,
yeah,
they and everyone else have been chasing mobile, and none of these traditional console game developers have really cracked the mobile market all too well. They've had some successes, but like Square Enix is like, you know, their mobile division had a horrible year from their financial report. Nintendo's retreating from that market, you know, after a few successes. Like, I think there, you know, and mobile is the biggest install base, but it's like also the most difficult to crack. So you know, I think, you know, that's there's also a lot of differences in that. But like, coming back to like the console stuff, yeah, you're right. Like maybe being cross-gen and timing it around that would be great. But like for Remake Part 3, the Ultimania book that came out, the development team said they're targeting 2027 for the release of that. I mean, I think that's too soon for people in chat were saying PlayStation 6. I don't think PS6 is coming out by then. But I mean, it's probably would behoove them to, you know, consider if it's not exclusive, even if it's still exclusive, try and negotiate with Sony. Like, can we get it out on like PC at the same time so that because I do think Final Fantasy and PC, I think we saw with Persona exploded on PC when it came to PC finally. I for some reason I think Japanese developed RPGs just like have this great second life on PC when they're not on Epic Game Store. Sorry, Epic Game Store. That is the the death sentence.
Shit, I totally forgot. Remake is still Epic exclusive. Right?
Yep, I forgot about that.
Yeah. That's a whole other element of this entire conversation. Is like where would 7 be if they released it on Steam? Where would it be right now? It's hard to like who could even say.
I don't know. Yeah, we don't know the inner workings of the deal for Final Fantasy, and some people are saying like it might like this might be too late for that. So
right, hold on. I'm
remakes
sorry.
on Steam. Yeah, remakes on Steam. Sorry, I was thinking about something else and did not pay attention.
Was it
to
a time
point.
exclusive?
Yes, it was. It was like a year.
Was still exclusive, right?
It was a year exclusivity, right, on EGS chat, or is it 6 months? I forget what it was, but Yeah, it was a year. Okay, but yeah, remake's definitely on Steam now. But
Got
yeah,
it.
that's like what, 2 years before it came to like the largest PC platform after the original release on PlayStation 4. So that's kind of insane. I don't know, but like Personas came out many many years after the fact and came to PC after they had only been like PlayStation exclusive. So I don't know. Like maybe there's like just a different demand for the different series. Like these are the reason analysts get paid more money to try and like guess this stuff and figure it out. This is why like, you know, the marketing accounting teams try and figure this out. But I don't think it could hurt being on PC day and date with like the console exclusivity, especially for something like this. But maybe not. Like what the scary answer is like 17, like for 17 to like, hey, guess what? It's going to be on everything day one. It's this great concept. It's like, it's Final Fantasy Souls, like, or whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's like the dream version, every platform switched to, and it still doesn't sell like 10 million copies. You know, could that be like the scary reality that maybe just it can't? Maybe it can't.
Honestly, I am counting. Maybe I'm being delusional, but I am counting on Switch 2 like almost getting in the rotation. It's something we haven't even like considered, right? We're not even talking like why isn't Rebirth on Switch, right? But I feel
Oh.
like there might be a time where like with Switch 2, it's like why don't you just port it, bro? Like why is this not on that platform?
Oh, well,
Um,
yeah. I mean, in the past I've said like trilogy would definitely come to Switch too, but I have no idea about the console exclusivity. Like maybe it is allowed to come to PC at some point, all three parts, like part 2 and part 3, but maybe it's never allowed to go to any other console platform. So or you know, like that. But I do think any project that is not locked down by an exclusivity deal will absolutely come to Switch 2 from Square Enix going forward. I think they like if it shows the same momentum in its first year, oh, absolutely, everyone will be on board with that. I think even if before that, people will be on board because they're gonna be like, don't bet against Switch. Like especially once they show it off and it's at least a hybrid again, which everyone expects it to be. Oh,
yeah.
don't bet against it. Like that. Anyone who missed the boat, you need to get in on this.
Yeah, the question is like how technically inhibited will it be, I think.
And I think I would expect, while it won't be pushing the envelope even for like handheld hardware, I
Mhm.
think they are probably talking, I would hope, by all these reports that they're showing it behind the scenes to so many different third parties to show them what they got, that they are working with them to ensure that their platform is scalable enough that a port job to it will not be a nightmare where you have to contract a whole huge another developer studio that specializes only in Switch ports to
Like
bring The Witcher 3
port.
to
Yeah, yeah.
your system, or Doom to your thing. It's like, nah, your team could actually handle this and it won't be too much of a burden for you. Yes, it's not going to be the best looking, but like it would be like running at the lowest option in the menu of your game. It's like you just have to default to the lowest options and it'll run on Switch 2 and you're good. Like you don't need to create a special version for Switch. If they could just hit that, I think you'll see everyone be able to bring their games over. So like, yeah, I'm expecting Square Enix's future offerings to be there. I guess everyone. Like, well, what's it? Monster Hunter Wilds. I absolutely expect that to be on Switch 2, like right away. And that looks like, you know, you'd be like, if that's going to be on there, and I think it's a good bet that you could expect most of the Japanese developers that aren't locked by exclusivity to bring their stuff to Switch 2.
Damiani, I'm saying GTA 6 on Switch 2.
Oh, I think so the weird thing is, maybe they just don't like. They're like, we're so big, who cares? It could really be an ego thing where they're like, we're prideful. We don't want our game to look like shit on your terrible hardware. But like, who wins in that situation? Are there executives that come in like, screw you, you're making us even more money? Like, oh, it's gonna sell 150 million copies. We want 170 million. So it's like, well, like, you know, I feel like people who their job is to make money, care about money, don't overlook something like that. They're like, I don't care about your pride and ego. If we can sell another 10, 20 million copies on this platform this time, you're going to do it because we want to make more money, because we want to please the shareholders. That whole evil corporate cycle, like that's how they think. They absolutely will not allow that to go by. I don't know. I don't know if like Take-Two's any different, but from the recent stuff, they're no different than everybody else. They're just as corporate-y and evil as everyone else.
We did have another full update from chat on the exclusivity period of FF7 on PC. Epic Game Store, December 21st. Steam, June 22nd.
So it was a 6 month.
Basically a half year. Yeah.
Okay. A 6 month. Still decent time.
That's so crazy. I wonder how it did on Steam. I really, really wonder, actually. To me, it doesn't seem like a PC kind of game.
I feel like they would have touted the numbers if it did well. And I don't remember them ever publishing numbers for Steam sales. So, and I think sadly with something like this, I think the longer you wait, the more it probably had a less chance of selling very well. It's like, again, with Persona, those games had been like a decade plus that they were like locked to a platform, and now it's like quote unquote being freed. Oh, we can play them on another platform finally. We don't need an old system anymore. They hadn't been brought forward yet. They did get brought forward, but like with the HD version. So it's like they were just starting to approach Sega Atlas. Were just like, hey, let's put these on more platforms, man. Let's get these things selling. And I don't think Final Fantasy is known anymore as being locked to PlayStation. Like in general, like a lot of their like Square Enix's stuff comes to multiple platforms, so you don't really have that mentality anymore where their games need to be set free and built on other platforms. So I think it's like that launch window. It has to be within like a 3-month window. I feel like otherwise that bump isn't really gonna. You're not gonna get that sales bump. You got to get like that initial sales launch to increase. But are you like, Kyle, so let me get it clear. Are you saying that like no matter what you think like something like Final Fantasy VII will just never sell very well on PC?
I truly think it's like a different audience, man. Even to come straight down to JRPGs. I feel like Persona is just going to do better on the platform than Final Fantasy will.
Okay. So I mean, so it would be like something like Switch would have to be like you think Switch would be like the big deal? If it was like more than even like Xbox. It's like, it doesn't even matter if it comes to Xbox. It's like Switch and PlayStation for Final Fantasy VII specifically.
Yeah. So I like honestly like I think it comes down like sometimes you just can't explain something like this TV show is much more popular in this part of the country than this part of the country. It's like why even like try to break that down? Why even like try to make sense of that? It's just what it is, right? And I feel like truly like if this launched day and day on PC, it would just still be such a smaller audience than what they had on PS5.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean, Omega Taco, I agree with you. Like Final Fantasy mainline Final Fantasy returning to Nintendo is a big storyline. Like that's like a headliner. We like a brand new mainline entry hasn't been on Switch since 6. So it's like 7 onward were like on other platforms first. They did not come to a Nintendo platform day and date. Yeah.
I mean, think about like Monster Hunter World, the impact that had of going just like, all right, we are multi-platform launch on next gen consoles. We're skipping Nintendo this time. And then it does like Capcom's best selling game of all time. So yeah, I feel like there is a strategy out of there, no doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I can buy into that a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. We're doing like so much of like, it's a good discussion, but I also like feel like we're doing Square Enix's like work for them. Like if anyone
we're doing dumb guesses. There's no possible way.
I also like that's like arrogant to think that too. It's like to think like we actually like we don't even know what the deals are. So it's like good luck.
Well, yeah, we don't have the info.
We have no info. We're just
all you can do is guess. Yeah.
I'm not sure how much more time you're expecting to stay on here, Kyle, because I did kind of want to ask you a little bit about Final Fantasy 16, but
I'm ready.
We've gone for like 90 minutes here, so I didn't know how much time you thought you were going to be on here for.
Honestly, the DLC is not expansive. We can.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have much to say.
I already talked about it like earlier this week's podcast. I don't really need to say much more. But yeah, I did notice switching gears here. The most recent Final Fantasy 16 DLC, the Rising Tide, the last piece of DLC they said that's coming out, just dropped, and I noticed
so they said last.
Oh, at the time, but now they're saying like they're doing their usual like that's what we said, but who knows? Like I would say never say never, but this was the original plan. It was to end with this.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what the hell they're actually doing? Just like we don't know the Sony deal, we really don't know what's going on in those closed door meetings and what they're saying to our face and what they're really doing. anyway, you recently played through this on stream. One sitting, I believe you did it.
Yeah.
You completed it. Yeah, what did you think of this? Yeah, because I know it's getting some like back and forth over this piece of DLC and reigniting 16 versus Rebirth remake direction in terms of like, design and gameplay.
Um. Okay, so like it was strange in how like it was okay, so just like with Rebirth, I was not watching trailers for this. I wanted to just kind of hop in and experience it all in the moment. um it was like way bigger than I thought it would be, and then like shorter than I thought it'd be. So basically it presents like a whole new island, a whole new village to explore, new characters, new power sets. You have a whole new like Leviathan move set, which is actually really fun. It's a blaster. It's a big arm gun that you use. It's way different from the other summon powers you get from other characters, right? But then it's just kind of like, all right, go to the baby and do the big epic fight that was part of the trailer, it turns out, and then you're done. And then that's the end of the story we wanted to tell with Final Fantasy 16. And what is crazy about it, why I said like there's not much to it, is like it adds practically nothing. It's such a strange like little bonus side story, absolutely filler. And what's so strange is like introducing characters and this whole scenario where it's like, why show me this woman with her axe if there's no future for her? Like, why even do this? Why even present the story if it adds nothing and there's like nothing more to go with this? So that's why I was surprised when you said this is it for FS16, because I could so feasibly see more. I could play this game for 8 or 10 or 12 more hours, I like it's kind of nuts to me. Shula is her name. Yeah, thank you, chat. So strange to me to like present these story threads and make these characters likable only for them to exist for 4 real-time hours, and then you close the game again and delete it for the rest of its life. So that's what felt so strange to me, is I was like really enjoying it and like getting into it, and it felt like playing a brand new RPG. Basically, you go to a town and you pick up quests, you meet new characters, and then it's like playing a 4-hour RPG. It's so weird. It just ends.
Interesting. So this is meant to be for people who've never played 16 yet. This will be meant to be played as part of the main story. It'll be presented as a quest if you pay for it. They have to account for that it's not mandatory because it's paid DLC. So I think that's why it's designed as in the way that it could be passed off as filler. They try between that and the other piece of DLC to try and make it somewhat significantly related to the main story. But even the one thing they kind of like acknowledged, they had to make up like an explanation for like, oh, if you did do this, well, you really didn't need to do it. It's like the main villain was like, oh, I counted for if you did this or not or whatever. It's like, yeah. Oh, okay, all right. I mean, this was Huber's rant. He hates DLC that like runs alongside the story that adds nothing. It's not like a new insight into like a character you already have, like a Jill side quest that like gives Jill some more stuff that everyone's been asking for, or going a little bit earlier with like maybe OG Sid and getting some Sid stuff. Like the stuff people were kind of asking for, we really don't get any of that in that. So like on that regard, it is pretty vanilla and doesn't really add anything other than like, this could have just been another part of the main game, another like area you could have gone to. It's not like anything new or special, and it doesn't add anything significant to the whole like the larger lore, the larger narrative of the game. It's like, oh, Clive's spitting wisdom about, yeah, we already know where this, if you already play, like, we know where this is going. And he's just saying like, yep, this is a big deal. Oh, yep, I've seen this stuff before. Like even like the acknowledgement part, like Garuda would be proud when like Leviathan summons a whirlwind. It's like, oh, okay. Like, you're trying to add like emotional attachment to stuff that like you only get like a few hours involvement with. And I get what you mean by it was larger but smaller than he thought, because like, oh, this is going to be like a 10-hour thing because we're going to a whole new region of the game. Here we go. 5 hours later. Oh, it's like a mini version of all the other parts we've played. It wasn't even as fully fleshed out as some of those other parts. And a lot of those side quests, I ranted to Huber because he loves some of the 16 side quests, and I do too. Like the special ones, like the Tonberry one was like okay, but like the ones that like in the main story, that like the Torgal one was great, but all like the character specific ones. But when they told me the first side quest was like, oh, this friend is in the jungle and we can't find him, I'm like, he's either dead by monsters or you're gonna fight monsters and rescue him. This is like the 12th version of this quest that I've played in Final Fantasy 16. You're really going back to the same trope again. Are you kidding me?
And you're like you're also, by the way, you're like the first visitor to this village in 100 years. It's like, and they're just like, hey, can you go do a thing for me? Hi, I've never met anyone in my whole life. Can you go do a thing for me? Like, all right. So crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they try to pass off as like Clive, like every time Clive meets new people, he tries to be extra helpful and stuff. Like from the moment he went to the, they try to, but like it's also, I don't fully get that whole like, wow, he first person like maybe like 80 years. Although they do say, one of the side quests do point out they have had visitors before, like shipwreck people, explorers, and like every time, you know, not so nice way of saying like we tried to like integrate them, but they didn't work out and they didn't last long, which means like they don't let them leave. So it's like, yeah. And you have a quest with one of them, like the dude who's in love with one of the girls who's like followed her. And and it's like they don't ever resolve that. It's like, I gotta wait to like Shua's like, I will make my decision later, and you never, unless there's like,
there is, you got to go talk to Hervey again.
Okay, you do. Okay, I didn't do that because I was like, I just don't care about you. But I'm like, this is dumb. I was like, I really don't care about you.
Here's what I'll say: if you're waiting on the PC version of the game, though, like it's worth, like it'll be such a cool moment. Like that'll be so, like if you're playing this complete game, like I feel like it will fit in before the finale. I think it'll be kind of like a nice little moment of that game in the entirety of your playthrough.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I expect the PC version to include all this as is, like boxed in, like definitive edition. Like it won't be treated as paid extra content. It'll just be in there. And when you get to that point, those quests will be, I think it'll be more natural to play through it. And I kind of envy those people because I think included as part of the intended progression, it's less offensive to me or less out of place and less generic feeling than the rest of the game. Because like, oh no, it was part of the game and I know I'm none the wiser, so it's going to be fine. I think the Omega stuff might stick out a little bit more. It's like, was this like specially made or something? Because it's just like kind of like less, I don't know, naturally integrated. It definitely feels like a little bit more forced, like a tacked on extra than the Rising Tide did to me. But if I didn't have to pay extra for them, it's like, oh, they're fine. You know, cool extra stuff.
Damiani, one of my favorite things in RPGs is an early mysterious locked door I know I will return to and open later. And that is where the Omega DLC happens, is behind a locked door from early in the game. So like, honestly, it's like, to me, it seems integrated at least like geographically, right? Like that was a thing I was always expecting to come back to and pop open that door. Crazy it happened in DLC. So I think, yeah, again, like if you're playing that game, the complete version, that'll be such a cool moment to go back to that door finally. It feels rotten to charge people for access to that door.
Yeah, that's, I guess, like, even if they count it, like, they warn you, like, hey, if you go to the final origin thing, that's point of no return. Oh, look, here's some extra quests that, like, you know, Rebirth even does that at a point, like, chapter 12. Here are a bunch of, like, quests. Do you want to do them before you go to the finale? Even if that's how they present it, it's like, yo, cool, mega quest. Like, I'll go do that. And it's something special, but like they tell you need to do it before you go to the end, though, because it would be really weird to do the end and then like go back and do that extra thing. It's like, I guess you could because that's how it works now, but I hope they do a little bit more massaging to like present it as like you should probably do this before the end. You know, you'll get a little bit more out of the ending. Now back to Rising Tide, though. I want to ask you. I thought it was like a little bit visually better looking, like the village and the island area. I didn't notice like any, like the performance was still an issue, but like in terms of like just aesthetics, I kind of like enjoyed it, because also the blue sky helped a lot after seeing like the ugly sky for so long. So I thank them for coming up with that.
Yeah, do anyone who hasn't played, they do a really funny thing where at that point in FF16, the sky is nasty because it's supposed to be foreboding, right? You're in a foreboding moment in the world. So for this expansion, they figured out a magical reason to give the player a nice blue sky to look at. It's so funny.
Oh, I forgot. You ended your 14 journey before you got to a part in 14 as well. Because it was like this, knowing the development team, they already did this before. They have a whole environment that uses this trick as well. So I was like, oh, they just literally used that. I was like, oh, okay, I see what they did.
Which expansion are you talking about?
I'm talking about Endwalker.
You're right. I did not get to Endwalker.
Yeah, there's one of the early zones in Endwalker that uses that same trick. But yeah, like I understood they needed to come up with like a Deus Ex reason for like, why is the sky not all weird and like, oh, magic. It's like, here you go, it's beautiful.
Yeah. And that's honestly, sometimes I appreciate that because we had a better time in that environment. Like just explain it quickly. It's okay because ultimately the player has a better time.
Yeah, I think it was just like that. No one else in the world was using that type of like, magic the way they were doing. It's like, oh, that, I mean, for lore people, I'm sure they're gonna have a field day with like getting in it, but like that wasn't really the appeal to me. I just liked how it looked, and I don't know if you liked how the environments looked and appreciated, like it was nice and sunny, nice tropical island vibes.
The waterfalls, the ruin, it looks great, and honestly, like it was like more of a budget effort than I expected in terms of like some of the battles and the sequences. It's like they spent money on it too. Just production wise, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. I will say like the Leviathan fight outside of the beginning phase, like when you're like in the wave stuff, which honestly the second time I played through it on Final Fantasy mode, it wasn't as impressive. I don't think it had quite the spectacle as some of the other fights. I think it was more of a technical fight meant to be like, yo, there's a lot of mechanics going on and like it's a little bit more challenging than you're used to, but it's just like a circular environment that like the dude just like swirls around and rushes from one. It was like the Ifrit fight. He's on one side, he's doing his thing, he rushes to the other side. Oh, he goes up into the air or underwater in this case, and he like vanishes. But like it wasn't like the Titan fight, or it's like, what the hell? Like we're going all over the place, or the Bahamut fight. Like we're going to different places. I mean, you do always end up back in an arena at some point, but like the arena was apparent from the very beginning of that fight till the end. It's like there's no, like, it's not like the biggest. I put it on the pace of like the Ifrit and Garuda fights, which is still good. But like, if you're looking for something that like, oh, this is like the last icon, like they're adding this for the DLC, it's going to be, what are they going to do for this? I think in that regard, it wasn't mind blowing or anything like that, but it was pushing back more in terms of like difficulty and putting like a sense of like urgency that maybe wasn't in the other ones, where it's like, no, I can just like take my time and fight. This is cool and shit. And it's like,
which I thought was the point of those. Actually, I was up for some difficult fights, right? But in the fight where it's like your level and gear and skill tree unlocks are absolutely irrelevant here. Everybody doing this fight is the exact same character fighting the exact same. Like the summon fights to me are meant to be like pretty easy and goofy. And like there's one moment where you need to do like optimal combos and dodges, or else you just lose. It'll just like insta kills you. Which is just brutal. Honestly, it was a brutal thing to do, but it says, hey, hang out with me for a minute. Like, you know what I mean? Appreciate this and spend some more time with me. And so I kind of get it in that sense.
Yeah, they did a DPS. Both DLC fights introduced the DPS check, which is, they love doing that in 14 in their fights. It's like, hey, DPS check. And to do it in like a single player game like this, I think the last time I'd seen like something like this in Final Fantasy was, other than like specialty fights, was 13 with its dumbass hey, you're winning the fight but you're taking too long. Guess what, there's this timer that pops up, and if you don't finish the fight soon, we just get one shot and die. I hate that about 13. Like I was like, yeah, there was that dumbass like enrage mechanic. If you took too long, if you're winning, like you're not beating it right, screw you, go back and try again. Which is like, okay, well, maybe they're trying to like teach you, but there's a better way to doing it. Or like this is just a phase. You don't go back to the start of the fight like, you failed this phase, go back to the just retry this part. There's checkpoint here. It's nice. It's a little bit more forgiving than do the whole damn fight over from the start. That I think would have drew more ire from people if they had to start all the way over at the beginning.
Yeah, it's like, to me, it's like a big video game philosophy thing, is I truly believe you remember the boss fights the most that you failed. If you beat a boss on your first try, it's likely not to leave an impact on you. So like, there's a balance there for sure. I think I failed that at like 8 times in a row, this one particular DPS check. But I'll remember that fight.
I will say, as advice, so I streamed it through on normal, and was able to do it with like normal stuff. On Final Fantasy mode, at that point, like I just wanted like my trophy, and so I wanted to see if I could just like get through that. I was like, I know this DPS check might be annoying. I already went through the pain of this DPS check on normal. I just want to get through this fight and be done with this one. So I tried using the Ring of Timely, the dodge one and the combo one, because I'm like, oh, it'll do optimal combos. No, it's actually harder. It's way harder. Don't use that.
Isn't wearing rings. What are you talking about?
It works. No, it does it will activate your icon powers, the beam one or whatever, at inopportune, like if they're just on cooldown and you're in range, they'll just freaking use them. Like, it's bad. It's actually not good. No, do not use that. Do not use that one. It will screw you up. If you want a hard mode, use that dumb ring. I actually inadvertently made it worse for myself.
If it can wear gear, if it can put gear on?
The rings, the timely stuff works even in icon mode. So like to test it, I left Ifrit not without put the controller down. He auto dodges most basic stuff. However, those super overlapping things, like he can't auto dodge all of that. He dodges into one of them and gets hit. So
I'm so furious about my stupid chat not telling me that.
Wait, why?
I'm so mad because like honestly, I would have put on auto. I would have put that shit on. I would have put that shit on.
No, that's understandable. Like, I mean, the dodge thing. Like, I'm all for things that address like personal shortcomings. For example, was it Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown had 4 set difficulties, but then you could go into any difficulty and start adjusting the sliders for everything and toggling certain options. So I love that. That was beautiful because
this is an interesting conversation too. There's a V Rising. You know that? Like,
V Rising. Yeah, I know it.
That's kind of like 10 difficulty sliders too. And I was like reading Reddit threads about like people telling you like the ideal slider settings of like enemy spawns and like HP and like how much damage you should do. If you play it like this, the game is the perfect difficulty. And I think, honestly, it's such a strange thing, Damiani, to be like putting it on the player to have the best possible time they can.
Okay. I think at least for the Lost Crown, I think their difficulty settings presets were really good. I think they were, you could gravitate towards one and it was actually really good. I think most people, normal was probably like a little bit difficult and would push back enough that you'd feel satisfied. I wasn't like talking about like enemy, like you can adjust enemy health and stuff. I didn't mess with that. What I was impressed about was I suck at like parry and dodge windows. I'm just really bad at those in games where it's like actually hard to pull off. I think in 16 they're not that terribly hard to pull off compared to other action games, but in Lost Crown I do think they're a little bit more brutal with their window. But one of the things you can change is give me a more generous parry window. Give me a more generous evade window. So you still have to hit the button to do it. It's not automated like in 16. That's probably the one grievance I had, is that there's no in between. It's either automated or do it yourself. There's no like extend the window option like the Last Crown. But extending that window, it was my skill level. All of a sudden, enemies still have the same HP. They're still attacking as aggressively, but I have a little bit longer to react to dodge stuff, and it felt right to me. And I was like, okay, this to me is like, this feels fair. Oh, I got hit. I had enough time to react to that. I just screwed up. I hit the wrong button. It wasn't like, dude, that was so fast I couldn't even react to that. Like, I like that. And I wish more games would look into those types of options. And I think coming back around to 16, that's where I think some people were critical of those accessories, is that it was an all or nothing thing. There was no in between for people who wanted a bit of an assistance. There's no shame in like using them. Like they shouldn't even be using the word shame in this damn discussion. Play how you want to play, and it's great that developers are accommodating so many different people. I just don't think they accommodated enough people in 16, both ways, for in between difficulties, and then for harder stuff they definitely did not have things right out of the gate for people who wanted a more difficult challenge. Like Final Fantasy mode is something different. It is harder, but like it's meant to be a new game mode. They did not have a default hard mode for, and they still don't have a default hard mode for a brand new playthrough for a new player, which is another one of their biggest mistakes.
Sure.
Yeah. But but for the battles, yes, it was nice to have a bit of pushback in Leviathan and in the Omega fight. They threw, even if they weren't too difficult, like you didn't die a lot perhaps on some of them, I think they were just faster paced and making you like feel a little bit overwhelmed, like a sense of like chaos that wasn't like spectacle chaos. It's like actual gameplay chaos. I'm like, oh my god, what do I do in this moment? It's like good, and you get hit a lot. Like, oh god, I'm taking damage. They haven't really done fights like this before. It was kind of a nice change.
Rising Tide mid boss is pretty good too. I actually like
the timekeeper dude thing, the armored ice. The animations in that fight,
just excellent boss design. Really,
this is the thing I wish Rebirth could just borrow. Is like just how the fights look, man. I get it's not the same gameplay system. I just wish there was they like some scenes they do, because some scenes it starts looking like Advent Children, but I mean they're using a lot of like cut scenes mixed in with gameplay to achieve that. Like when all like the final Sephiroth fight, when like they're all like flying through the air and like hurling each other towards it, like that big finish move. I'm like, oh, that's so sick looking. But like 16's doing this in real time when I'm hitting buttons and stuff. It's like, is there any way you could get closer to that? Just a little bit? Just a little bit?
Okay. It's not even... You were saying you prefer the 16 presentational style to that moment that you'll remember for the rest of your life.
Oh, I'll never forget the Titan fight in 16 over anything in Rebirth. 16, the Titan fight in 16 is like one of the most memorable Final Fantasy fights I'll ever have. And I didn't die. I know I didn't die, but like, holy shit. That goes back to that
conversation. So you did it.
You achieved it in a different way, because I'm like, what the hell am I? Like, this is insane that we're doing all that. It's like Asura's Wrath. It's like Bayonetta and Asura's Wrath, the only other games that came close to doing what this was doing on that level. Now, you're right. There's truth in what you said. There's so many FromSoft bosses I'm going to remember because I died to them a million times. You know, I was kicking and screaming and angry. That's another way to make a lasting impression. Like Millennia, it's like, I'm never going to forget that asshole of a boss that killed me like 500 times probably for like hours and hours and hours. And it sucked. But you know what? I'll never forget that boss. And it's like, I am very glad I beat that boss eventually. Titan, it's like, I wasn't like glad I beat it because it wasn't challenging, but I was like, holy shit, did I just see this happen on screen in real, like in a game? I'm like, that's cool. But you can't keep, like, that's harder and harder to do. Like that, I think it's way harder to do that than it is to make like a gameplay satisfying boss, because I mean, they're both difficult, but like at least with gameplay, you have that working with you in tandem. Whereas like this, if you're relying mostly on spectacle, man, if you did like, if anything's just off about it, the player's like, I'm out. Like, what is this? Like, whoop-de-doo. Or now that I've seen Titan, it's like, dude, I already saw Titan. You think this is impressive to me? Come on, like that's
how you felt about Leviathan, actually. Yeah,
it's like everything, like anything that's visual. Once you've seen something, it's like it gets less and less impressive as you see more like imitators. Basically, it's like that's not as impressive anymore. Like bullet time. Oh my god, the Matrix is so cool. Every other time you've seen it, oh, okay, bullet time. It's like played out now. I'm not that impressed by it anymore.
I will say every time I love bullet time on a dodge. If I slow down time on a dodge, I'm into it every time.
So Bayonetta, you like witch time a lot?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, it still looks cool. I won't deny it. I'm not saying it doesn't look cool anymore. It's just like, you've seen this. It's like, but I mean, you got your work cut out for you. It's like, you got to do something even new and different. You can't just do slow-mo anymore. You got to do all these cool color effects going on, like Bayonetta. Like, it's witch time. You step into a different reality. It's like, it's a different dimension. Ooh, and I haven't seen that before. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's an unending race.
Yeah,
an escalation, an arms race, dude. It's scary.
Yeah, sorry. Back to Rising Tide. We talked about like the boss Tonberry design. I gotta know your thoughts on those Tonberries.
I love them. They're such little freaks. I really, really like them. They're like, so Tonberries freak me out, dude. I'm always threatened by the violent force of Tonberry. And so like I love that about the character, right? It seems unassuming, but it does have a creepy posture and hood, and it can just take you down to 0 HP in an instant. And so like I love, like that's so fun that that's a thing across Final Fantasy games, right? So when I do see a Tonberry like creature, I'm already terrified of it automatically. Like that is a nice thing about having a long-standing franchise and legacy, right? Um, but I liked it. I really like the take, honestly. It's fun. It fits
Okay.
within 16's world.
Okay, that's a good way to put it. Fits within 16 world.
Yeah.
Because I did see some people be like, that's the whole point of Tomberries. They look cute, but they're so deadly and like they're menacing and like that image evokes fear. But like they're not supposed, like, to no one who has the context, like, what is that cute little thing? Whereas like this was maybe like, this is two hitting the nail on the head. They're like they're creepy and they're creepy, but it's like it's 16's world. It's
They
like
still got a big soft head. You know what I mean? Like there's
They look
definitely creepier things in 16.
they look
It's
like
still,
humanoid dolphins, miscolored dolphins to me.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But
That's
I
a fair
mean,
take.
the robes and like their movements, like they absolutely like looked at a FromSoft game
Hey,
and like, yeah.
they got a lantern and a knife. It's a Tonberry. I was really cool with it.
I really liked it. I like seeing different stuff. Like we said, like it's harder to like make an impression. How many times have we seen the classic Tonberry? It's like, okay, it's another Tonberry. It's like they did something different. They're trying to like stand out. It's more memorable, possibly. I agree. Like I like that approach. Okay, yes, a good Tonberries, I thought. I don't know if you caught this, but like let's talk about like real quick the music. Did you like the music? Because I love 16's music. I thought the DLC's music was pretty good. Did you like it?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in the biggest moments they played the old music, but
So you
yeah, there
did
was some
catch
good
it was
stuff.
old music.
Oh, is that a thing? Is this a story?
Do you the music, the main music they use in this game? People have been waiting 4 years for the song.
Wait, no. What are you talking about?
Go back and play the original trailer for Final Fantasy 16, the Awakening reveal trailer.
Uh-huh.
The last minute of that, like roughly 3-minute trailer, they play this fantastic, bombastic song, epic song.
Okay. Cool.
That was never in Final Fantasy 16. It was only in that trailer.
That's so cool.
Until
No,
the
I did not know this.
rising tide. That is the
No, I
battle
didn't pick
music
up
for
on
the rising tide. And in the town version is just like that soft, version of it. They used like 4 different versions of it. They literally took that trailer music that were like, you made such a great track. Where'd it go? Right
Cool.
here. I felt to me that was a nice payoff. I like that. Yeah, only thing I would like to give a shout out to that I thought it did pretty well was the dungeon, like that like time frozen dungeon with like the frozen like objects and all this debris frozen in time, like fireballs, blue fireballs from a Leviathan.
Yeah.
Like that was really kind of cool to like walk through and see. I felt like
Absolutely cool spectacle, no doubt.
and that frozen wave, the surge, like when you get to walk up to it and you're just surrounded by it. I was like, oh, and like Joshua goes, look at those droplets frozen in time. I do gotta ask one last question though, Kyle.
Sure.
Did you like the concept of like this angry baby being Leviathan?
Yeah. Generally I like weird shit I would have never have thought of. You know what I mean? And which is why like Rebirth has so much weird shit I would have never thought of. So like my answer is yes. As opposed to it being like a little boy or like a great sage, yeah, an 80-year-old baby is like enough of a weird thing to like make me think about it, you know?
Okay. Did you think it like in-game graphics? Like sometimes I feel like babies maybe are harder and children are harder to render in some games. Like some teams are just not good at making like little people for whatever reasons. Like, did you think the baby looked okay?
Yeah, because like babies don't have to be cute. They're not necessarily like it's rare to actually like you have a cute baby, and it's like so it's okay in my mind to represent a baby as being slightly grotesque.
Slightly grotesque. Okay. I thought its face looked it looked aged. I don't know how to like put that. Like it didn't look like a nice soft baby. It looked like
that
a
baby's
rough
been
baby.
screaming in isolation for 80
it looked like it had
years.
been suffering for 80 years. I was like, maybe
Yeah.
that they did a very good job of making it look like it was a suffering baby. Uh, yeah. Frozen baby. I was like, are we just doing the last Airbender here? Oh, the dominant has been missing for 100 years and frozen in ice after being, triggered and to go into its like Leviathan state. I'm like, interesting story here. And then it's like, oh, but then the tribe was using it for evil purposes because it was like a weapon. I was like, oh, like Naruto. Oh, so it's Gaara meets the Last Airbender. I was like, okay, I get it now.
I mean, 16's full of the Naruto stuff.
Oh, I mean, yeah, the whole trope is the Jinchuriki. I mean, even before Naruto, they were doing like that type of stuff. But yes, and shout outs to Huber. Every time it comes up, he's like, Jinchuriki Naruto, let's go. It's like, yes, he loves anything with 16. He's like, it's Naruto. So
yeah,
he loves that stuff. You want me to talk more Avatar with Kyle? Why?
No. There's no time for that. Absolutely not.
I don't understand why though. Like,
I don't watch it. I don't watch it. I don't like it. I don't think it's interesting.
Oh, well, I will be inviting you back on for that at some point for sure. Because obviously you're talking about the M. Night Shyamalan live action adaptation.
No, I'm talking about Nickelodeon's Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I'm not hearing that right. You're saying the live action movie, the Netflix show? What? The Netflix show?
Damiani, what I'm telling you is that none of those characters look cool. And for you to become interested in action series, the characters themselves have to have some sort of cool element to them.
So you're saying Zuko is not cool?
I'm saying he doesn't have a cool look. Yeah, I'm telling you, he doesn't have a cool look.
Oh, okay. Well, that is the cliffhanger here. This is this is my confused cloud. I'm not seeing. Kyle's obviously not seeing things correctly right now. He must be viewing an Avatar: The Last Airbender from a different reality right now. He must have watched a different one than everyone else has watched. It's the only plausible explanation I can see, because everyone loves The Last Airbender. How can you not love it? Like, that's just not right. Clearly, you're out of your mind. Yeah, we'll have to like have a return in 3 years. I'll have you back on in 3 years to talk about that, because maybe we'll have the other 2 Netflix shows and then the movie. They got delayed actually. They're making another animated movie set within the animated universe, but it got delayed.
Damn.
They had to call it Aang: The Last Airbender because they finally lost the battle with James Cameron. They just can't call it Avatar anymore because they know everyone will just assume Avatar is blue creatures.
Honestly, good call. And in this case, I think it's a good call.
I always thought like Last Airbender was like the stick out part. Like, people call it TLA for short. They don't call it Avatar. They call it TLA and they call it Korra. So like for the other show. So I think right call in the end. Very smart move. Yes, this is a bring me the black materia moment, Kyle. Watch, like, I will make you like Avatar. No, there's nothing wrong with like disliking it. But yes, I feel like we've said our piece on the DLC, Final Fantasy 16. Yeah, it's like, I wouldn't recommend it unless you're like already heavily invested in 16 and love 16 and just want more 16. If you kind of finish 16 base game, like, I'm good, then you really don't need to come back for this. I don't know if you mess with the Ultima stuff at all or that extra stuff, but
no, I did get his powers, but I did not do the wave after wave mode.
Yeah, that's whatever. Honestly, it's like not that. It's like fine. Like, it's an extra bonus. But ultimate powers were cool looking. I was like, yo, this is sick. But I mean, you're done with everything. Congrats. Here you go. Here's this like godlike power that if you ever just want to beat the ending of the game again, I mean, maybe they carry. I think they carry through new. If you want to start a whole new game, I don't know if they carry over. Cool. But who knows? Anyway, thank you, Kyle, for spending so much time indulging me, and for dealing with all this stuff and dealing with a tiny bit of Zelda. I kept it minimal. I told you, and I wasn't even the one who brought it back up after I let it go. So yeah,
Damiani, it's been a treat just talking video games with you for 2 hours. It's been fun.
Oh, thank you. Do you have anything you're working on, or you want to kind of like shout out before we leave here, and then just remind our listeners and viewers one more time where they could follow you if they want to like keep up with your stuff?
Yeah, youtube.com/Kyle Bosman, twitch.tv/Kyle Bosman, delayed input, season finale next week. And then, streaming 3 days a week, Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays.
Very nice stuff. But yes, I look forward to the sequel to this episode, the Avatar episode. The last Airbender episode
Yeah. All
for
right.
this, because so you haven't actually watched it though. That's you're saying, Kyle, you don't want to watch it.
I've seen like 2 episodes.
Okay, so that's like that might be the issue here, chat, is that I need Kyle to actually watch it to have a discussion.
Got to put in the work.
Yeah, but I don't want to make him watch it if he doesn't want to watch it though. So if you ever end up watching it, Kyle,
I'll come back.
Tweet or something, and I'll look for the bat signal for that.
It won't be a tweet, but I'll throw up the signal. Yeah.
Okay, put up the signal, and we can make this happen, because I'm curious, because I wonder if you like your thoughts might change if you actually watch all of it and see it to its end, or if you're stand
going
by.
to. No, that's what is so unappealing to me, is they will change and I will like it, and I just like, I'm not really willing to go through that transformation right now.
Okay, it's too much mentally. Yeah, I get it. It's a lot. Like, come on, like, just stay uncool and be bad for me, and be like, live up to my expectations of being bad.
It's like in Dragon Ball, it's like Piccolo. Like, there's this guy named Nail on the ground, right? He's another Namekian, and Piccolo says to him, he's like, I don't want my personality to change. I don't want to just suck you up, and I don't want you to change my personality. And he's like, he's got to do it for the power. He does. He sucks Nail up.
Tropes. Good stuff. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you, everyone that participated in chat for comments and insight. Again, thank you, Kyle, for joining me on a Sunday afternoon, giving me some of your valuable time. And until next time, have a great week, everyone, and see you all later.